John Adams warned that if left unchecked, unprincipled, unscrupulous men in power in America would destroy our government. And he was right about that.
Hey, everyone. I hope you're having a wonderful, amazing, perfect day. And guess what? Hunter Biden is still Hunter Biden, and President Biden is still in the White House, and they all have bank accounts with foreign adversaries' money in it, and they're just trying to explain that away. Isn't that funny? And the DOJ seems to be okay with that. Doesn't mind coming after you, me, any MAGA supporters. I guess we're the real threat. Anybody who stands up for the stands up to school districts, goes to Latin Mass, so on and so forth. That's just the way of the world right now. But why? Why is this happening in the United States of America? Why is our bureaucracy just contaminated by this kind of virus of power that is no longer operating under what our Constitution and our principled founding fathers demanded for this great nation? What has happened? What has gotten so rotten that we have forgotten who we are? And certainly our government has forgotten their role in protecting the American people, not controlling the American people, not spying on the American people, but doing its job for us because we're supposed to be the boss, right? Well, guess who I have on the show today? I have Gregg Jarrett. I love him. He's amazing. He's a friend. He's also an legal expert, and he can give legal analysis into the most in-depth I'm telling you, cases that are in the courts right now with regard to President Trump. And he can pull those apart and give us perspective as to what happened in the United States and why we are in the trouble that we are in. I want you to join me today with him. We're going to be discussing his new book, which I believe every single one of you should own. It is called The Constitution of the United States and Other Patriotic Documents Collected and Explained by Gregg Jarrett. Sometimes you got to go back to the basics, folks, to figure out where we went wrong along the way. And I'm so glad Gregg is publishing this collection. We really need it right now. But first, I want to thank Allegiance Gold. Folks, what do I tell you all the time? We need to diversify in a world right now where there's market volatility, where we're worried about our stocks, where we're worried about our investments. We need to think about expanding that. And I believe in buying actual gold and silver. And you can do that with Allegiance Gold. I love this company. Thank you again for supporting the Sara Carter Show, Allegiance Gold. And right now you'll get $5,000 of free silver on a qualifying purchase when you visit protectwithsara.com today. That is protectwithsara.com. Gold has stood the test of time as a safe haven investment. And now more than ever, folks, you need that safety and insurance for what you've worked so hard for. Right now, Sara Carter listeners can get up to $5,000 in free silver on a qualifying purchase when you visit protectwithsara.com today. That's SARA, or give them a call at 877-702-SARA, SARA. Don't wait. Take control of your retirement today. Call 877-702-SARA, SARA, and speak with one of their experts. They'll answer all your questions and help you get started on a path to a more secure and prosperous retirement. Don't wait. Time is of the essence. Protect your future with Allegiance Gold. Visit protectwithsara.com. That is protectwithsara.com. I'm so grateful to have my friend and Fox News legal commentator, New York Times bestselling author, and author of a new book, Gregg, The Constitution of the United States and Other Patriotic Documents Collected and Explained by Gregg Jarrett. You are the go-to guy for me when it comes to legal analysis, when it comes to what is happening in our nation as far as the crazy, insane weaponization of our government, bureaucracies, and the fallout that we are watching when it comes to targeting President Trump. So thank you so much for taking your time out of your day. I know how busy you are to be on the Sara Carter Show.
Oh,
Greg.
that's okay. One of the reasons why I wrote this book, it's because I became convinced that the education system in America, Sarah, has really failed young people. And, I watched it unfold years ago when my daughters were, in public schools. And I became appalled and disturbed and alarmed that, they weren't being taught enough government history, American history, civics, the fundamentals of what makes this country so great historically. And so, the other night on Fox News, we did this man on the street, interview. And the person was asking, mostly young people, they look like they're in their 20s or 30s, basic stuff like, who fought in the Revolutionary War? What was it about? Who won the Civil War? What was the Cold War? Why did they call it the Cold War? And a young woman said, the temperatures were really chilly back then. So basically everybody flunked. So this book is needed now more than ever. If you buy one, buy two, and give it to the educator near you, your kid's teacher, because this should really be the template for teaching the greatness of American history. This really is a tribute, Sarah, to the many patriots who made this country a luminous beacon of hope for liberty and prosperity and justice throughout the world. Millions of people all over the world want to come to the United States. Just look at our southern border. And yet, we see these protests all over the street by, young people who don't know anything about their own history or government, but they love to tear America down. Lately, they've been glorifying Hamas terrorists. Well, they don't know a damn thing about the conflict. The first thing they should do is learn about this country and our freedoms that they take for granted. So that's one of the reasons why I wrote this book. There was no other book out there like that. There are, in addition to the Constitution printed in full, there are 65 of the greatest, most patriotic writings and speeches over the course of 2 centuries in America.
Well, I was going to say, Greg, and I absolutely agree with you. And I think everybody should have a copy of your book. And I know I'm so grateful for it. And I think it's important that we teach our youth the truth about our founding fathers, the truth about why our nation is, in my opinion, and I believe in any person who immigrated to this country and found a better life, the greatest nation on earth and a beacon of light for the rest of the world. But that's not the way it is anymore. You brought up a very good point. Our youth, and especially so many young people, aren't being taught appropriately. I was stunned when I saw a survey that was conducted several years ago. And this is regarding Hamas and what we've seen in Israel, the horrific attacks, and then the response from many of the young people in these protests across the country, that there was a survey conducted by the Anti-Defamation League several years ago that actually showed that the majority of American youth, and I would imagine around the globe, I could be wrong, but the majority of Americans in this survey had no idea really what the Holocaust was, how many people had actually died in the Holocaust. They couldn't even name a concentration camp. I was blown away.
They couldn't tell you when World War II took place. Hell, they can't even tell you what the 3 branches of government are and what their functions are. So, it's
have we been subverted? No, so have we been subverted? Because these professors come from universities that are ideologically bent to the left. They're radicalized. They are teaching our children a false history. You are trying to say, here's the real history.
Right.
So what do we do? How do we counteract these professors that appear to be working for the Chinese Communist Party or somebody else other than the United States government? Or then their own, or then not just a government, but I mean, just they're not working based on reality. They're not doing the job that they're intended to do. And that is to teach our children the truth and make them great thinkers so that they can then lead our nation into a brighter future. They're lying to them and they're manipulating them and they're
Oh yeah, it's like Stockholm syndrome. They're brainwashing, they're indoctrinating them instead of teaching young people about American history. We're finding increasingly that the all-powerful teachers union led by Randy Weingarten is endorsing indoctrination, the brainwashing of, for example, extreme versions of critical race theory in which children are being told they must view everything in life and in the world through the lens of racism, and you must judge people by the color of their skin. And if the skin is dark, they are victims, they are oppressed. And if their skin is light colored, they are oppressors and victimizers. Now, that is it's completely idiotic. It's insane. It is in and of itself racist. Critical race theory is racist, the extreme versions of it. And children, no wonder, they're coming home depressed. I'm a victim. I'm a victimizer. They get that into their heads, and it's so insidious. And so, I think the answer is
it's abusive. It's abusive.
Parents need to stand up and protest at school board meetings as they did in Virginia. They need to vote out people on school boards who endorse this kind of idiocy. People need to take it back. They need to push for school choice. I mean, competition
Absolutely.
is the only way to get rid of Randy Weingarten and the teachers union.
My Pillow. I love My Pillow. I know you love My Pillow. I know you love Mike Lindell and his amazing American company. And he cares so much about you and I. And right now, for Sara Carter listeners, guess what? Mike is offering the My Towels 6-piece towel set for $29.98. I'm telling you, grab it now. Grab it now, but grab it at mypillow.com/Carter. You want to get it at mypillow.com/Carter. Imagine you can get each one of your kids, family members, cousin, niece, nephew, whatever. If they need towels, get them the My Pillow 6-piece towel set right now. I'm telling you guys, this is a great towel set. These towels are plush, lush. They feel great, soft to the touch. You're going to love them. You're not going to regret it. Right now, My Towel 6-piece towel set, now only $29.98 at mypillow.com/Carter with promo code Carter, or call 800-685-7221. Go to mypillow.com/Carter and enter code Carter, CARTER, at checkout, or call 800-685-7221. Wrap yourself in the best with the My Towels 6-piece towel set for only $29.98. Go to mypillow.com/Carter or call 1-800-685-7221. Hey, folks, if you love interviews with great legal minds like Gregg Jarrett, make sure you're subscribed to the Sara Carter Show here on Rumble, YouTube, and your favorite podcast app. It makes a difference. I want to move into a subject that I know that is close to your heart and my heart as well. And I think it buttresses off this, brainwashing that the teachers unions and that these professors have done over the last, I would say, of 4 decades. But it's the Justice Department. And going to your book, The Constitution of the United States and Other Patriotic Documents, I mean, our founding fathers intended for this balance of power in government to exist in an effort to protect the citizens of this great republic. But how is the Justice Department corrupting and subverting what the founders intended? I feel like the buck stops with the Justice Department. And that's why I feel like your legal analysis is so important here. Because if we don't have that, Gregg, we don't have much.
We were warned about this by none other than John Adams more than 230 years ago. And it's in my book, The Constitution of the United States and Other Patriotic Documents, and I underscore patriotic. John Adams warned that if left unchecked, unprincipled, unscrupulous men in power in America would destroy our government. And he was right about that. He was so prescient. More than 200 years later, we saw our Department of Justice, the FBI, intelligence agencies help conjure up the greatest mass delusion in American political history, the Russia hoax, to drive an elected president from office because they loathed his policies and they despised him as a person. These unelected people, again, at the Department of Justice, FBI, other agencies, they think they are the ones in power. They should decide. The foolish voters should never have a say. So we're going to basically commandeer the government, and we'll use it for our own political, partisan purposes. And that's what they did. And John Adams was right. These were unelected bureaucrats who, seized the reins of power. And the only way to do it, it seems to me, is at the ballot box. Get rid of the current administration that is so corrupt. Merrick Garland running the Department of Justice and effectively using it as a protection racket for the Biden family. The FBI, Christopher Wray. If people vote somebody else into office, there's the chance that whoever assumes the Oval Office, first thing I would do is fire Christopher Wray. I wouldn't even bring him into the Oval Office and do it personally. He doesn't deserve that dignity. I would fire him, and I would essentially deconstruct top to bottom the FBI and reconstitute it for its original purpose, because it's gone rogue, it's corrupt, and I do the same thing with the Department of Justice as well. The DOJ will never do its job properly as long as Merrick Garland is in charge.
I absolutely agree with you. I think that I absolutely agree with you on the FBI and on Merrick Garland and on every point you just made. But a lot of the concern, and I keep saying, the ballot box is where we fight back. The ballot box is where we take back our nation. Right now, there are some cases, both in DC and in Georgia. The Georgia case, the election case. What do you think of the Trump team's legal strategy so far? And as far as maybe looking at some of the issues that were most concerning about the election. I mean, because it's a very touchy subject. I mean, it was weird. We couldn't talk about election integrity, if that was even the right word for it, before. But I think every nation, even the United States, we've got to make sure that we've got clarity, that nobody questions anything. I don't have a problem looking at it, that way. What do you think about these new cases?
Well, so you bring up the Georgia case. It's a racketeering case.
Right.
Which is absurd. You have to, it's Fani Willis, who's the district attorney down in Fulton County, Georgia. She ran on the campaign of getting Trump. So did Letitia James. So did Alvin Bragg. So they brought all these cases. They're partisans, and they're doing it in violation of the canons of ethics that govern prosecutors, to see that justice is done, not to target a single individual for political reasons. But these are all politically driven. So racketeering, seriously? I mean, when I saw that, I just laughed, because she must be so profoundly stupid. You have to prove a ongoing, organized criminal enterprise. What was going on in the aftermath of the election was the epitome of disorganization. It was so fractured. And you had different, people advising and counseling different things and filing in different states challenges to the election. I mean, it was laughably disorganized. This wasn't an organized criminal enterprise. That's, first and foremost. And second of all, you got to prove that Trump was involved in each one of those allegations that they say is organized. So, this is a ridiculous overreach. I don't think it would ever, upon a conviction, stand up on appeal. The same is true. I mean, the Alvin Bragg case in New York, I can't stop laughing. What a moron that guy is. He didn't even state in his indictment what crimes Trump committed because he hasn't figured out what laws were violated.
Is this election interference, Greg?
Let's indict a guy first, and then we'll figure out what he did afterwards.
But he's a moron. But the power of the courts to affect you, you know what I mean? And your ability to move forward, and then you got to spend money and you got to go to court and you don't have time. Is this like election interference? Because at the time of this recording right now, an appeals judge in New York has, temporarily lifted that gag order they had on the former president. Yeah, but
I know. I mean, gag orders, first of all, almost all of them when they're issued by a judge are unconstitutional, particularly so in this case. When you get indicted by a prosecutor who stands in front of television cameras and before you've even had a trial convicts you in the court of public opinion,
right?
A defendant is entitled to respond in kind by defending him or herself. And so Trump has a greater right, frankly, than anybody else under the First Amendment because he's a leading candidate for the Republican nomination for president of the United States. And yet this idiotic judge tried to gag him.
Do you think this is good news? Is this good news for President Trump?
Yeah.
Do you think it's going to last?
The higher court looked at it and said, are you kidding me? This is a First Amendment violation, which I've argued, for the 40 some odd years I've been a lawyer. I was a trial lawyer, defense attorney. These gag orders back then were just as unconstitutional as they are today. But judges who think they're God Almighty and think they can do anything because they wear a black robe and they sit on a bench that's above everybody else, they think they can just issue gag orders. And they count on the fact that most defendants don't have the financial wherewithal or the time during the course of a case to seek an emergency interlocutory appeal. Well,
which
Trump's
most
different.
of us don't. Which
Trump's
most of us
different.
don't.
He did it, and he did it so far successfully. But look, this guy, Arthur Engoron, should never. I mean, I don't know how he passed the bar examination.
Because he's a tool. He appears to be a tool doing the bidding of the left, and whatever they just throw in Trump's way is just to basically interfere, I believe, in this election. I mean, in the end, do you think Trump is going to win this case?
Yes, and the key word is in the end.
Right.
This fraud civil case, presided over by Engoron, he is almost certainly going to rule against the Trump organization and Donald Trump. He's biased. And I don't think he's frankly very smart. I've watched a video clip of him delivering a lecture, and I thought, God help those people in the audience, because
they need your book. They need your book.
Yes. And, Judge Engoron needs my book, assuming that Arthur Engoron can actually read and comprehend simultaneously. It might improve his, as Trump would say, low IQ.
Can you send him a signed copy? You can just send him a signed copy. I will pay for it. We'll send it to him. I just make sure you sign it. I'll pay for it and have it shipped straight to.
They're using in that case a cockamamie consumer protection executive law. Right? It sounds really important, doesn't it? It's not. Yeah. It's stupid. It's a law that basically tosses out all kinds of due process protections. It violates more than 100 years of established common law on fraud. which requires that a prosecutor or a state attorney prove that there was an intentional deception, that somebody knowingly and intentionally made a false statement. Well, this bizarre law tosses all out. So this is a lawless law. And on appeal, it'll eventually, whatever, if Trump is found culpable by Engoron, rhymes with moron, doesn't it?
Yes.
He, I think almost certainly on appeal, he'll prevail because the law also violates the Constitution. It penalizes commercial speech, which is absolutely protected by the First Amendment. So I don't know, what people in Albany came up with this law, but none of them were lawyers, almost certainly.
Yeah, I think this is what is so baffling to the American public. And I'm going to go back a little ways to, you talk about the Russia hoax, and we were always on the show together with John Solomon and Sean. We were pounding the truth, telling the American public about what was happening. And the shock for I know for the people that communicated with me after all of our investigations, Greg, was that nobody was held accountable, that the president of the United States of America was held hostage by what appeared to be a disinformation operation that was conducted by the FBI, the CIA, other major players inside our bureaucracy, the people that are churning the wheels of our government, and that instead of doing the job against our adversaries, they were literally targeting a president. And I think Americans are having a hard time coming to grips with the fact that the DOJ, which is supposed to be our shining light, right? Lady Justice. The most important to me part of our republic is that Justice Department. It's what brings people from all over the world here because they want to be treated fairly. But now people are saying, well, wait a minute. Are we really? Are we a banana republic? Like, what's going on here? If they can hold up a president in the court, imagine what they could do to me, what they could do to you. And nobody is ever going to pay the price for it.
Yeah. I mean, where are my books? Here, look at this. I wrote two books. I wrote 2 books about the very subject.
Great books.
That you just brought up. The Russia hoax, #1 New York Times bestseller, and Witch Hunt. Here's what happened. The government got infected with crooked, corrupt people, particularly the FBI. James Comey, Andrew McCabe, Peter Strzok, the whole gang of them. And then there were others over at the Department of Justice, and they all ganged up on Trump. They were aggrieved that Hillary Clinton wasn't elected president of the United States. They tried to help her the best they could. And when they failed, they decided to double down on their machinations, covert, clandestine plan to drive Trump from office by falsely accusing him of colluding with Russia, which was laughable. And so, they used this phony dossier by this lying Christopher Steele. The first time I read the dossier, I couldn't stop laughing. I mean, it was like some junior high school, wannabe detective fiction novelist wrote, an illiterate. But Chris Steele is illiterate. I mean, he is, and he's not a smart guy. And even the people that worked with him in British intelligence had nothing but negative things to say about the guy. He's just not bright. But he came up with this. He got paid by Hillary Clinton campaign and the DNC to, phony up a document, invent a story, a fiction, a fallacy. And what's so amazing to me is that it, in some ways it worked.
Right. It did. Yeah. In some ways it did
it damaged Trump terribly. He could have accomplished more, but for the collusion and narrative driven largely by the mainstream media that never did its job because they're not competent, smart people.
But it didn't happen because of an adversary running an operation against the president. It happened because those they were adversaries, but not foreign adversaries necessarily. It happened because the operation, I believe, against the president was run by U.S. intelligence apparatus and officials. And those people are still. They're working in government.
They're there.
They're fine. They're doing their thing, destroying our country. Before I let you go, because I know I just could keep you forever, Greg. But the DOJ is now openly, probing Trump supporters as well. And I know that a lot of them listen to me, listen to you, listen to Sean. Those parents are parents confronting school boards. Those are traditional Catholics that go to Latin Mass, and so on and so forth. But they can't figure out who has vandalized pregnancy centers around the nation. Our FBI can't figure that out. They can't make arrests of people that have literally gone onto our streets and are supporting Hamas, who are defacing our monuments and ripping down, some of those flags and putting the red handprints all over the walls of the White House. I mean, this is what is so frustrating. We are in a time that is so vastly different, and Americans are afraid. What can happen to change all that? How do we get it back?
Well, I mean, look, you've got to educate people first and foremost. I'm struggling away to do that, which is why I wrote this book. It's more than 500 pages, 65 of the greatest patriotic writings and speeches, addresses, essays in American history. From Patrick Henry all the way through 2 centuries, Frederick Douglass, Abraham Lincoln, Susan B. Anthony, Teddy Roosevelt. You've got one of the amazing things I put in here is Albert Einstein's secret letter to Franklin Roosevelt warning him that the Nazis appeared to be developing this new and frighteningly powerful weapon called an atomic bomb. And, it was great credit to Einstein because that precipitated the Manhattan Project, and we developed the bomb before Germany did. And it was critical. So, all the way through Ronald Reagan, I've got 4 of Reagan's greatest speeches in this book. The Constitution of the United States and other patriotic documents. It's just out this week.
Where can my listeners get that book? You can
go to the bookstore near you. It's nationwide. You can go to Amazon.com and order it, deliver the next day. You can go to the publisher, HarperCollins.com. You can go to my website, thegreggjarrett.com. And so it's available nationwide. But, one of the things that I have said repeatedly in my first book, my second book, is that the greatest threat to America today is not a foreign force, but an insidious force lurking within our own body politic. And it's at the FBI, it's at the CIA, it's at the Department of Justice. And it's people there who have a thirst and a yearning for power. And it's exactly what both George Washington and John Adams warned about, that people imbued with power will abuse it and misuse it, which is why they created these systems of checks and balances. But they can't solve everything. Ultimately, it's up to the voter to go to the ballot box and vote these people out, vote in office people who will fix the problem that has infected America.
Absolutely. And folks, you need to get out there, buy Gregg's book. This is look, if the professors and the teachers are not teaching your children about the real American history, about what our founding fathers intended, about putting those safeguards in place. And the biggest safeguard is the American people. You are the ones in charge. You are the people that have the power in your hands to make a difference. And you do that at the ballot box. And you do that by what Gregg said exactly, by paying attention to what is happening in our government and being an active part, being the boss. You're the boss and you're in control as long as you do it. If you turn over and cede power to the government, they are going to take it and they are going to control us. And that's it. Once we lose this country, folks, that's it. It's going to take forever to get it back. And God help us, because unlike, there's not a lot of Gregg Jarretts in the world. They're not out there. There aren't fighting the good fight and understanding the law. I mean, before, we had these founding fathers, great principles. They wrote a magical document called our Constitution and the Federalist Papers and all of this. But we don't have a lot of great thinkers like that, like Gregg Jarrett and our founding fathers. We need to get our act together now. We need to take responsibility and we need to fight back. Thank you so much, Gregg, for being a part of the show. You're so awesome.
Always great talking to you, Sara. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate your kind words about my new book, The Constitution of the United States and Other Patriotic Documents. Thanks.
Get out there and buy it, folks. I want to thank my friend Gregg Jarrett again for coming on the Sara Carter Show. It was great having you on, Gregg. I can't wait to bring you back. Your analysis is so spot on. And by the way, it gives me hope. Parents, please get out there, buy Gregg's book, make it a Christmas gift, do what you need to do, but get your children educated. If you think their professors at the universities or their high school teachers are teaching them the truth about this great nation and the founding fathers, you are sadly mistaken. Very few are. Please make sure you're subscribed to the Sara Carter Show as well here on your favorite podcast app. It really helps and makes a huge difference. Follow me on Truth at Sara Carter Official, on X at Sara Carter DC, and on Instagram at SCarterDC. God bless you. God bless our great nation. Pray for peace in the Middle East. Pray for our children and the future of our nation. And God bless the great state of Texas.